Hey, if you're a doula who wonders, how do I get through everything in a prenatal appointment without forgetting anything, this is the video for you. My name is Victoria. I've been a doula since 2015, and I have developed the Birth Doula Client Workbook. Now, you're seeing the version I've customized for my own practice, but I sell a template version of this in my shop. You can buy it digitally. You're going to get a full PDF you can use as is, as well as a link to a Canva template that's all yours to customize and use on your own. So if people have been purchasing this workbook, they have asked me one recurring question, which is, Victoria, how do you use this when you work with clients? And that's what I'm here to answer today. So typically what I do is when people sign on with me, I send them a welcome email. I have a questionnaire I ask them to fill out, and I'll attach the PDF version of this workbook, but I'll also say, you're going to get a digital copy just so you already have it. I know you've got this in your hands. And you're going to get a copy in the mail from me in the coming weeks after you filled out your questionnaire and I have your mailing address. And that's just because I've noticed some parents are really eager to get going and they just want to know all the information they're going to be getting. And then other parents really everyone loves happy mail, but some people love getting a book in the mail, physically having something they can look through and do some birth planning with. And so I'll tell them, you can go ahead, feel free to work through the workbook at your own pace. It's okay if you fill out everything before the first time we meet, and it's okay if you fill out nothing before the first time we meet, because we're going to go through this workbook as part of our prenatal process. And you can write your own notes, you can answer the questions as we go. So of course, the parents who choose to do the workbook before we meet, we're going to get a little further in our conversations just because they've already done the work. But if not, I found it really doesn't take a whole lot of time for people to kind of get with it, understand what we're asking, and just at least verbally process, even if they've got some more thinking and writing to do after. So the workbook is divided into 3 sections. There's they're divided by these blue headers. There's a pregnancy, birth, and then a postpartum section at the end. And typically, I like to at least make sure I've gotten through the portion of the birth planning section that's going to take them through writing their birth plan. So for my book, it looks like this in the template, but of course you can change it. In my book, I'll show you, it looks like this. Where I've got, a section on writing your birth plan. And my goal is to get through at least this whole chunk the first time we're meeting. It stops at labor positions. And again, I'll tell you how I handle that in a minute. But typically, there's about 3 pages for pregnancy. I just spend a brief time going over this with people. It's just sort of reminders for how to have a healthy pregnancy, how to get the most out of your prenatal appointments, and an invitation for them to go find a childbirth class, which of course doulas are helping clients connect with if they have questions. And so again, depending on where they are, we may spend some time talking about this pregnancy intro pages. We might not. It really, that part is sort of loose by design because I'm not always sure when in pregnancy people are hiring me. If it's early on, we might talk a little bit more. If it's later on, we might just kind of, get to the good stuff, get to talking about birth, which is a little more imminent. And so writing your birth plan, it really goes through a kind of high level discussion first of birth philosophy, and you'll see there's a lot of information on the pages, but it really is just a reminder for me of what to talk about. So I know, okay, well, first we're going to try to identify your healthcare philosophy. What's yours? What's your partner's? What's your providers? Are you guys a good fit? Then we're going to go into care team. Who is taking care of you in birth? Who might be with you postpartum? How are you communicating with those people and the people who love you and might want updates? Let's talk about setting some boundaries. Then we do go into more of what you would expect with a birth plan conversation. What are some ways you comfort yourself if you're having some pain in everyday life? I kind of get people to brainstorm emotional and physical ways they already seek their own comfort. And then I start introducing to them some labor options. So there's a page of non-drug comfort measures. There is a page of drug comfort measures. And then there's a page of obstetrical interventions. And again, depending on where they are in pregnancy, depending on if they've had a childbirth class or not yet, that conversation can go different ways. If they are really green at that moment and don't know a whole lot, I will just say, the directions say put a question by things you want to learn more about, put an X by things you would like to avoid, circle the ones that you're interested or comfortable in using in labor. And that usually starts a good conversation. And if they have lots of questions, I'll say, hey, let's talk about the childbirth class. You really need to be learning all of this now and kind of getting a lay of the land now. This book is introducing your options, but it's right. It's the parent's job. It's a two-way street. Doulas can provide options. Parents are responsible for their part of learning about them. And there's a page on cesarean plan, which of course it's really important to help people think through super plan Bs. And again, this conversation, it might go really fast. It might be really in depth. It really just depends. But I know that even if in that one interaction, whether it's an hour, short end prenatal or a 2 hour long end prenatal, I know that I've left them with something they can reference, something they can go back to, and we're going to have ongoing conversations as needed. Birth planning kind of course, goes into plan B. What else might we need to talk about? And then special cases. Is there anything we need to know about to take good care of you? The workbook includes some templates. I really like having these available, sample language. And at least in that first prenatal, I kind of tell people, you know what, we've covered a whole lot. Again, I try to let parents camp out where they might need to camp out with regard to conversation. Although it's nice to have a book because I can say, okay, well, let's flip the page and, that's a good conversation. I think we can pause here or say, hey, it sounds like you need a childbirth class to learn more, or it sounds like I need to send you some information about this option and we can talk more once you know more. So let's flip the page and keep going. It's just a nice way to keep things moving, but you're not leaving people hanging. And I should say too, this workbook, of course, it's basic. It covers a whole lot. It's not going to anticipate every single solitary question a parent might have. And so utilize, really use that moment to utilize the breadth of what doulas do, right? We are giving you, oftentimes it's text or email, phone support throughout pregnancy. So I'll say that's a great question. We're going to email about that because your time one-on-one is limited, but you've got me throughout your pregnancy as a resource. It really kind of anchors people and reminds them that you're there for them, not just like at the birth. That's typically prenatal 1 for me. If we have time, I might go into labor positions. If not, we're going to hit that the next time I meet. You'll notice my workbook has some pictures. The workbook online, it'll just have these different categories, and that's because I would love for you to be able to add in pictures that you have permission to use. These are ones I have permission to use. So I think that's, it's always good to just show people what's labor look like, perhaps what a comfort measures look like. I'll do a really basic review with people. I have other resources I can send to them. And again, I'm trusting they're going to be taking a childbirth class. We're there just to make sure we know some muscle memory, how to get into this position. And that first prenatal goes very quickly and I need to fill some time. Or it seems like you need to add something, that's great to do. If not, I think that's a great way to start the second prenatal to refresh memories and kind of, okay, let's talk about birth, touch base with the birth, and then the second time I'm meeting with people, I'm really going into postpartum. So there's a couple pages here that help people postpartum planning. And again, this workbook is great because it works well if they've already answered some of these questions, if they've followed the directions and did it themselves. They can give me their answers and we can talk. Or if they haven't, we're just writing it live. We're going through it right there, and that seems to be really helpful. So yeah, I hope that answers the question for the people who've wondered, how do I use this workbook? I find it has been a very wonderful resource to have. I've seen it in people's hospital bags for labor. I love that so much. And it's just nice to have a guide for conversation. And again, there's lots of room in the workbook to write notes. There's lots of room in a doula-client relationship to email further, which I think is very important. Communicate further. That just kind of enhances your connection with people. It enhances the value of the service you're giving to them. And I think it makes you look like a good authority if you have something to give them to guide. Makes you look like you know what you're doing and you know what they need to know as well. So thanks for watching this video. Thank you guys for the wonderful interest in the workbook. And until the next one.